Welcome to the Cyber Call, the podcast by Right of Boom for managed service providers looking to stay ahead in an ever-changing world of cybersecurity. Each week, we dive into the latest threats, trends, and real-world strategies to help MSPs protect their clients and grow their businesses. Let's build a safer, stronger community together.
All right. Happy Monday and welcome as we are just a few days away from the U.S. holiday here, Thanksgiving. Good to see everybody out there, and thanks for joining us. First off, wishing you guys all a healthy and happy one to you and your loved ones and family.
Feel the boom. Be part of the conversation at Right of Boom 2026. Tickets on sale now. Use code CyberCallPod to save $100.
Although, sometimes our loved ones, Wes, aren't necessarily family and loved ones. You have that aspect of holiday, Chevy Chase scenes come to mind. I don't know about you.
I can't wait to start watching Christmas Vacation. Any excuse I get to watch that, I'm down for.
All right. So, before as we get into introducing Kelvin, which I believe most everybody on here will know, let's do a little banter and talk a little bit about this, which is the CrowdStrike insider threat. So this one is, just wanted to take a moment on this, Mac, starting with you, because you've worked for large incident response firms and MDR providers. Like this, I don't sit here and go, "Oh, CrowdStrike, how could this ever happen?" This is, large. These are large organizations that have, people globally. In this case, it appears they were finally tipped off when something appeared on Telegram. CrowdStrike saying nothing happened with that information. No systems, no customer data was compromised. But on the thematic side of things, what do you kind of make of this? And when I say that, how can we do some learning from this? Any kind of takeaways as you start to look at the reports?
Well, at least it's not an outage, right? I think we all had PTSD, so maybe the news is getting better for CrowdStrike. I think the one thing that they don't really publicize or talk about a lot in the past 2.5 years, they were seeing a huge uptick in insider risk and insider threats. And I don't think we talk about that enough. I think traditionally we think it's developers and contractors. And now what do they call it? They call it recruitment as a service, but I think they should come up with a different name. But it is essentially recruitment as a service. Technically it's left of Boom. So, from the optics perspective, no persistence was established, no data was exfiltrated, which, yes, that would probably not take very long for them. But I remember seeing when it was on Telegram, and I remember seeing people post on LinkedIn before the article actually even got released or they went public with it. So, and again, it's another this new spinoff affiliation of Scattered Lapsus Hunters group. The concerning thing is this is a pretty sophisticated group just based on the breaches they've done this year alone. So knowing that they're targeting IR companies is not surprising, but terrifying.
Not only that, Mac, going over maybe to you, Kelvin, the names that this threat group is targeting, these are the who's who of our, at least, for US global Fortune 50, Fortune 100. They are certainly motivated to disrupt the biggest of big, it seems.
I think it's just the size that it gets into the news. And there's so many small companies that don't even realize this has happened to them. I always love referring people to the story that this happened ages ago, back when Hunters was still getting started, of Wozniak, a guy that sold his MSP's credentials for $500 in Bitcoin on the dark web.
What a steal for the threat actor.
Yeah.
Exactly, right?
I mean, you could have gone a little bit, highballed that a little bit more.
Wes, I remember us all talking about this, right? You like, because I remember like we were all like on the dark web. You guys were all tracking this, right, Kelvin? As if I recall.
Yep. These are things where, like, you look, for example, at a lot of cyber incident data. There's very few claims made from like insider threat sourced attacks, but when they happen, they're really, really scary and damaging. And there's just a limit to how much we can really do about these things, right? Like, I don't work in a SCIF, so I can easily bring this device right here wherever I go. It's not difficult for me to grab photos, to take things, and if I'm disgruntled, to make those things, to leak those things, or just, we're going to talk about identity a lot today on the cyber call, even those kind of things, right? Like, it's really deadly when it happens.
Yeah. Phyllis, SCIFs, that's something you can relate to. Like, you guys obviously can't bring stuff into the NSA,
right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think insider threat is a big deal. We always used to joke at the agency. It's like, you work for a place that doesn't trust you. You know what I mean? You have clearance, you have to badge in, you have to badge out. You can't bring in your cell phone. Still, there's insider threat. Like a big agency like that, when you have classified data, of course, like, it's also like a little bit of fear. You don't want to go to jail. You have a poly every 5 years. There are all these things that people put into effect to try to thwart it. But of course, if someone is, disenfranchised or whatever, people can get away with things. And after every incident, there's always more things that come into play, right? After Snowden, a lot of restrictions come in. So, I think what will be interesting is the aftermath after this at CrowdStrike. Like, what new policies is a big organization like that going to put into place to help prevent this in the future, right? It's pretty bad when someone's taking photos and posting it, right? And so like Wes says, everyone, there's this expectation that you bring your cell phone into work. Either you're working at home or you're going into the office and you're bringing in your cell phone. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of policies CrowdStrike decides to put in place.
As MSPs, are you prepared? Are you prepared to have these kind of discussions, because you are the great middle person to all of these vendors that you work with? It's going to happen again and again. Not saying it's happening every week, but you need to be prepared for these kinds of discussions.
Especially if you're an MSP experiencing active investigations or have had past incidents. So you're already being targeted. So you have a clientele downstream that's valuable to some extent. I think we always forget about why they're being targeted and what was this, $25,000? $25,000 nowadays is a lot of money for a person to hand over a couple clicks of what will we call this? Fileless DLP, fileless data loss at this point.
Well, what I'm curious about, let me just ask you guys all this, and then we'll jump in today's topic. Phyllis, for example, you take CMMC and the fact that the rulemaking body is finally baked, things are moving into action. Could we see, similar kinds of quote unquote enclave activity? If you're a CrowdStrike, as an example, you have federal customers. Right. Do you feel, we could start to see some type of downstream into vendors that are working with DoD?
I mean, possibly. CMMC came about because people weren't using the 800-171, right? So there was leakage of data. Yeah, exactly. Shocking. So, it will be interesting. Something like this and data gets lost, then yes, a new policy will come down. Believe it. And one more regulatory framework or one more thing, will come down. It's just a question of what is that tipping point.
Okay. So, hey, let's get on into it. I thought very apropos, Wes, we did kind of a stream, me, you, Bob Miller, Zach Scherf last week. We talked about focus of Write a Boom on certifications and training. Big one this year is Microsoft. Microsoft's going to be involved with Write a Boom this year. We're really excited about that. And on the heel, so the last few weeks, we've been talking about Microsoft. And I thought, well, a few things were happening that would make us want to bring on Kelvin. One, Microsoft just finished Ignite. A lot of big announcements. The person that I always like to have translate what this all means, what are the goodies, what things mean is certainly Kelvin, because he's very close at heart to that, being an MVP, developing a solution that really is deeply involved in the graph in M365. So that was really the impetus of kind of rounding off our November focus on Microsoft. So Kelvin, some big news coming out of, I was going to say Redmond, but really San Fran, where it happened. Everything from the AI agents to Sysmon coming natively like that. I'm surprised, I mentioned it to John Strand, who, has been harking on this forever. He was thrilled. But, a lot of big announcements. And then you're on the cusp of, I think it's 8.7. Help me, 10,000 plus MSPs. So again, kind of setting the stage that I thought this would be a really kind of culminating way to talk about you. And I'm going to mention that, we'll talk about your session at Write a Boom, where that stands, because it's pretty cool. These announcements, your announcements. So Calvin, I think almost everybody on the call will know you. Just in case someone's new and doesn't, if you could just do a quick intro, both on the MSP side as well as the CyberDrain side.
Of course. So like Andrew said, my name is Kelvin. Don't worry about my last name because it's impronounceable even to me. I am, as Andrew said, a Microsoft MVP. I have been for the past 7 years, so 6 times awarded Microsoft MVP. I also created a tool called SIP, the CyberDrain Improved Partner Portal, which, like Andrew, you took away everything about my introduction, because I wanted to say, hey, we manage 10,000 MSPs now and 2.7 million tenants, and you already said everything.
I didn't say how many millions of tenants?
2.7 million tenants, which is an absolute insane number. It's and there's a couple of large CSPs in there that skew the thing a little, because they use it for their GTIP management. So it's slightly skewed, but still very awesome to say. Also, I've been a blogger for ages about PowerShell and these kind of things, and on cyberdrain.com. That's pretty much what kickstarted my community involvement in the MSP community. I really got involved in everything related to MSPs. I run /RMSP together with Matt Topper and some other amazing people. I am on the board at MSP Geek, and I still run my MSP's day-to-day business. I am the CTO at Lime Networks, a rapidly growing MSP in the Netherlands, and I'm having so much fun doing it. I like my heart truly belongs in the MSP industry, and I really believe that if I wouldn't be involved in my SaaS business, which happened way after I started my MSPs, I would just be completely absorbed in the MSP industry in so many different ways.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all you do for the MSP industry, and for coming on the Cyber Call regularly and giving perspective. We do know that Phyllis needs to drop it around 135, 140. I thought about it, Phyllis, we'll just FaceTime. Just keep restreaming up and we'll FaceTime you. And don't worry about your kids' appointments. We'll just...
That sounds good. I'll be in the waiting room.
Wes, as always, welcome back. It's great to have you. Hard to believe that this the Cyber Call kicked off 6 seasons ago. So always great to have you back. Mac, great to have you. As always, thanks for joining. So with that, Wes, let me let you kick it off.
Cool. And thanks for having me. It feels like I never left. Really, really cool,
Yeah.
and loving where this is going. So, Kelvin, there's a lot under the hood here, and I think where we should start is what I took out of some of the announcements that came out of Ignite is that Microsoft is essentially saying in the future MSPs aren't going to be driving the car anymore; that agents are driving things, and that's not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing, but it's a huge shift. It's a shift for MSPs that are stretched thin, but it's also a pretty big, important issue that I think is going to expand the capabilities of what great high-performing MSPs should be doing. And so maybe my opening question for you is, let's just think about it this way. Ignite, they painted this future where agents are running things. Is that really the breakthrough that MSPs need to manage things faster? Or is it going to become a challenge in that things are going to get dangerously over automated for an MSP? Or is it potentially both, depending on the maturity level of the MSP?
I love this question because I am super bullish on AI. I truly believe in AI agents. I believe in AI-powered things. I don't believe that Microsoft adding yet another portal in which you can chat to your graph data is going to be the AI that MSPs are going to need. In all announcements that Microsoft made during Ignite, MSPs were absent. And we've spoken about that before. We've spoken about that before because Microsoft considers MSPs to, like, they calculated all of this, and it's only 2% of their income. It's only 2% of their revenue, I have to say. So, of course, they're not going to have focus on that 2%. They want to focus on the majority of their clients. And that's the biggest issue that is going to happen with this agent thing as well. There's not going to be multi-tenancy. There's going to be yet another thing for MSPs to manage in a very complex way, having to jump through all these hoops to go into different portals. And sure, once you configure it, it should be set up. But we all know automation doesn't work that way. It needs to be maintained. There needs to be still a 4 eyes principle. There needs to be people making sure that things are running exactly as they were intended to. There's updates. There's Microsoft making changes. There's this myriad of reasons why you would still need to get involved in the automation. And the biggest problem is that none of that really has multi-tenancy in mind. So, no. I don't believe that this is going to be some big panacea that every MSP is no longer going to have to do a lot of management. I do believe that the management load might decrease if MSPs are made aware of this being available. Because that's the most important thing that Microsoft also forgets. It's they don't work with awareness. They throw out a couple of marketing statements, and from there on, they hope that people pick it up. But that really doesn't happen.
Yeah. Okay. So I love that because that kind of gets into the second component of what I want to talk about is I think you're right. We look at automation. We look at automation at scale. Automation without guardrails, without intent behind it is just going to end up in maybe just more automated nightmares and messes. And so we're not against it. So that kind of brings up the second question is Agent 365, right? That was a big part of the headline. And I spent some time this weekend just reading up on it myself to see what it's capable of, what it's doing. It's really exciting, right? So if I'm an MSP today and I'm managing 100 tenants, I'm busy with all of that. Does that make Microsoft 365 management actually scalable for the first time? Or is it just one more portal to have to deal with? Because we hear you. There's a portal for everything this day and age, not even just in the Microsoft ecosystem, but everywhere, right? Yeah. So what do you think about this? Is this going to help solve things? That you can make things worse?
I was talking about this with one of my business partners, Ashley Cooper, yesterday, I think. And she is the biggest proponent of AI that I know. And I was talking to her, explaining what all of this does. And she said one thing that really triggered me like, oh, wait, this is just, you're absolutely right here. It's Microsoft is trying to put their marketing sauce on everything. Because all that Work IQ and all that Agent 365 is a couple of MCPs and APIs, but they don't want to come forward saying like this is an MCP and this is an API because that is scary language to their customers. That is scary language to their clients. They don't understand what it is. So they rebranded some wording. But all it is giving AI the ability to ingest specific data and use specific actions. And that's not something new. That's something that we already seen in a lot of different automations. So I don't believe that this is going to be a huge solution for MSPs. I do believe that it's going to ease the workload. It's going to help them in automating some things they couldn't automate before, not because of a lack of skill, but mostly because of a lack of time.
Can I ask go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I was just going to say, before we lose chat that's streaming, Kelvin, can I just ask a few things here? John says, we need a tool in SIP to run permission reports on Teams, SharePoint, to look for over provisioning, over permissions, config drift. Is that something coming, etc.? What are your thoughts?
No comment.
Okay.
No, there is something coming, and I always like giving spoilers everywhere, but right now it's a little early to talk about some things.
Okay.
We have something coming that even if you're not a SIP user, you'll be able to run on your tenant to analyze exactly how you are looking for readiness for these kind of things.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks, dude. Okay, Wes, you had a question.
No, I'm glad you asked it, Andrew, because that's a really good. I just follow-up question into some of this. Kelvin, hopefully what I'm about to say will make sense. If I'm an MSP and I've never really spent good time thinking about my own internal processes, what good should look like, and I just start building agents out to just mass scale what I'm already doing, isn't there a world where that lack of like process governance, not security governance, but process governance, will just result in just more chaos at higher speed and scale?
100%. So the biggest thing that I've been saying is that the MSP of 5 years ago doesn't exist anymore. The MSP of 5 years ago we're no longer installing servers every single day and that kind of stuff. We're using cloud services. We're moving stuff to M365. The MSP of 5 years ago is no longer existing in its current form. In 5 years, what I'm hoping to see is MSPs that are much more involved with their client's business process, with their client's compliance process, understanding, hey, the clients, these are the crown jewels. These things need extra labeling. These things need extra protections against data exfiltration. All of these kind of things are what an MSP of the future should be focused on. And that automatically leads to, hey, there is more control over the process, so it becomes easier to use AI. And again, these aren't my ideas. Ashley Cooper really forced this into me after having AI discussions. Like, the biggest thing in the world is around compliance.
Yeah. Okay. So that dovetails into this other question around SIP itself. And I'm not asking you to give like a SIP. Well, everyone here's using SIP and have 10,000 MSPs in the door. So I feel like I can ask this fairly. When we think about governance, it's nice that Microsoft is starting to beat that governance drum for the first time around baselines. Well, that's a big part of what SIP does, right? It gives us multi-tenant governance so that we can finally have standards and quality for all of our tenants in the way that we need this, right? So what part of Microsoft's future from Ignite aligns with your move faster, smarter, scalable vision?
So there was a lot announced during Ignite, and one of the bigger things is that Microsoft is a company that supplies mostly products to enterprise. And that's a really good thing because it allows enterprise solutions to drip down to MSPs who have much, much smaller clients. And a lot of their announcements around security, for example, were, hey, we're going to expand on XDR for Defender in Business Premium, their smallest SKU. And they've made promises and commitments to make it easier to deploy Defender and to manage all of these really complex products. Sentinel had a lot of good announcements saying, hey, we're going to make sure that Microsoft Sentinel from now on automatically ingests your data. No need to set it up manually anymore. All you need is an Azure subscription. These are the types of announcement that Microsoft is actually saying, hey, we completely understand what everyone's saying. We completely hear that downstream you need more support too. So we're making choices for you. And that is something I think that they should have done very long ago. They should have started making choices for down market companies.
And hopefully, with them coming to the events now, Kelvin, we'll see, they have executives, director level people coming. Hopefully they'll, they want to do roundtables. They want to do them at Right of Boom for sure. And, I'm not saying this will happen, but hopefully we will see a day where you see a Sentinel that's not consumption based, and they get the idea that it's got to be endpoint and, aligned with how we go to market. And I think, I think we're starting to see their openness to listen. That's the important thing for us. They're a big company.
And there's fantastic initiatives going on.
Yeah.
A good one for that is security for SMB, Intune for MSPs. And those are initiatives Microsoft started specifically for our industry, like trying to get more visibility. I have to applaud them for putting effort and time into something that they often have seen as, oh, this is negligible. This isn't an industry we are super focused on, but still giving us some of this attention is really good.
Yeah. The other thing, if I could just close out, one comment you made rolling back 2 or 3 minutes ago, Kelvin, was the MSP of the future. I think, the large companies, right? Enterprise, and I would say enterprise consultants have been the harbinger and precursors of where we are headed. You say we're going to see these MSPs that are the leaders be integrated with their customers' processes. And I don't think you have to look too far if you look at the Accentures and KPMGs and McGladrys of the world, the ones that, we could only, as MSPs, you really would love to have what they charge for their engagements. But I think that is the model. We typically see enterprise, right, 3 to 5 years ahead of us.
Yeah.
And I mean, and if people go, well, I don't know if that would happen, et cetera. Well, just look at security. I mean, one thing I say all the time, I'm very proud of our industry. In 2016, when we really started putting down the gas, Wes, and trying to get MSPs involved in changing how they view security, we had to make up 20 plus years of ground in real short order. And I think a lot of MSPs have done that, but it is going to be a completely different, a different MSP in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. And I think at IT Nation, we were talking about this with a group of people, Chris Ryan being one of them, who you should bring onto the cyber call at some point. And he said something I thought was really interesting. He said, the future of where MSPs are going is less managed service and more consulting. You're going to become and act more like a consultant. So that means that you can step into co-managed situations when you need to. That means you can bring to bear automation strategy. It means that you can come in and really help the client get where they need to go. And it's not necessarily just saying, well, you're this many seats and therefore I'm going to charge you this much. And that's the end of the story. And I don't think most MSPs are ready for that shift. And we think about things like what Agent 365 is doing. We think about the shift of where Microsoft's going. Personally, Kelvin, I believe that's one of the most important components for an MSP to get grips on is how to come in and really think about, I've got all of these things I can do, but how do I bring process maturity to the standards? How do I bring governance around this? And then how do I help the client accomplish what they need to do, given unlimited tools, given unlimited capabilities? How do I make sense of that? And to me, that's the consulting element that will make good MSPs shine, and bad MSPs that can't do that, they will become fairly irrelevant, and they'll be the ones that are arguing over what's left over.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
My last question for you. I want to talk about Sysmon for a minute, because this kind of goes back to my old Perch days. It's kind of cool to see Sysmon kind of going native everywhere. The security dork in me is like, dude, this is great. Just makes things easier. It's wonderful for visibility. It's wonderful for me to be able to consume and see more things. That's great. But what about the ops folks that are out there, right? Like, they probably flinch to say it's wonderful to have yet more data, yet more tools. So help us understand, what does this really mean to have Sysmon native? Is this going to help us become more stable? Does it simplify or complicate tenant monitoring?
For tenants, not necessarily. It doesn't really make any changes. For classic workstation management and server management, this means everything. This completely changes the playing field. In a lot of cases, there were so many providers of SIM solutions, source solutions, these kind of things, that had to install Sysmon themselves and then configure it to collect data to the correct source. And then they had to make sure, like there was a really complex chain of events that always had to happen. And one thing the attackers did was, hey, let me detect if Sysmon is active. Oh, it is. okay, hold on, let me kill a couple of processes, reboot the machine, and continue what I was doing because now I'm invisible. That is no longer going to be like an option. It's going to be an important part of the operating system. And when it's an important part of the operating system, you add that observability. Having that observability means everything. And it also means that for some MSPs, things become a lot more in reach. Having Sysmon available locally immediately means that you can start using your RMM a lot more as a security product. You can start alerting on specific events much easier that you couldn't before. Even if you're a small MSP, a solo shop, or a guy just starting out, you can't afford every single tool. You can't afford a SIEM and a SOAR and all of these really cool tools that we all really hope we had, but there's no financial sense for it yet. But you can afford an RMM. So you can start collecting the data. You are able to view these logs. You're able to react on them. You're able to service your clients a little bit more with the things that they do deserve, even though you financially can't yet. So this Sysmon, as the nerd in me, is so happy. I've spoken to my security team about this, and my security team is fairly sizable now, and not a single one had a negative thing to say about Ignite, thanks to this announcement. They were like, no, Ignite was fantastic.
Love it. Yeah, I thought it was super interesting as well. So I appreciate the commentary and feedback on that. Phyllis, over to you.
Yeah, sure. I think I have time for a quick question, and then I'll let Mackenzie and Wes duke it out for the rest. Okay. So Microsoft's Work IQ puts a cognitive layer over the Microsoft Graph. And so is this where, we talked about MSPs of the future, where they really have to like seize the moment just from like automating scripts to really automating, your full business workflow. And then, everyone's excited about SIP. Is SIP going to somehow leverage this and help MSPs?
On the latter one, no comment. No, of course.
Okay.
Yes. Like, of course we are. There's almost no choice. So what Work IQ is an MCP to talk to the Graph API that's completely pre-configured for you. So because we have a technical crowd here, we have technical people, I can say these things. Microsoft can say these things publicly, of course. People just get lost. But because you have an MCP available, you're suddenly able to use natural language to do anything you used to do administration-wise, but also data-wise inside of M365. So that makes it so much easier for MSPs to say, okay, you know what? I know that this client has lots of data. I know that their most important SharePoint site is called important SharePoint site _final _do not delete _ this is really the one _final. And that means that they can use natural language to start protecting that data instead. And that is a really big benefit because most MSPs understand what their client is doing and have a general idea on where their important data is. And using something like Work IQ, they'll be able to say like, hey, I need to label all the data in this really important folder and make sure that DLP policies are applied to it. I need to make sure that I get alerted when permissions on this folder change. And using that natural language makes it more accessible for a tier 1 engineer to do this and to at least create a basic setup over that a tier 2 or even a tier 3 supplier needs the help in setting these things up. So it doesn't remove the work directly, but it does shift it to... It shifts the effort of labor to a lower level, which helps a lot in making sure it actually happens. Because in a lot of times at MSPs, we run out of time. We're like, there's only that many hours in a day and we can't do everything.
Good stuff, Kelvin. Mac, you want to take a few?
Yeah. Wes, do you want to handle the SIP question? And then
yes. Love to. So one last question. Thanks for letting me hog all the time, Mac. I'll give all the rest back to you. I promise, friend. So Kelvin, one last question for you. We know tenant sprawl's a huge challenge. It's always been a huge challenge. Mega challenge. That's why you have SIP, right? It's why it's grown so fast. There's no questions, any of that. I want to get practical for a minute. Let's throw away the hype. Let's throw away the buzzwords. What Microsoft has released so far and what they've shown in Ignite, can any of that using AI, can any of that actually help us continue to standardize and get out of this fragmentation world and this tenant sprawl? And if so, what areas specifically would you look to and should an MSP be aware of to start leveraging some of what Microsoft has announced to help us continue to deal with sprawl?
Absolutely. So because the Work IQ layer allows tenant management tasks, an MSP can pick up most of the basic security needs for a tenant through natural language. If they just write what they actually want to happen out in a simple document and paste that over all of their tenants, it'll actually perform the task that SIP is performing continuously. So it does give MSPs the ability to use a lot more of to get a lot more done in a lot less time. So I do believe that looking at M365 as a holistic thing, you can't change every setting and not have any impact. But I do believe that the low-hanging fruit is something that Work IQ and Agent 365 and all of these things can start changing for you. So MSPs have a lot more time to focus on what they should be doing. And I have a really good example of this, actually.
Yeah, I was about to ask you for an example of that specifically, of like low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
A lot of the low-hanging fruit is stuff like disabling guest users from enumerating a tenant. By default, that's on. They're able to enumerate everything. But if you invite a guest user into an M365 tenant, they can check your conditional access policies, which is used so much because what hackers do is they simply call up someone and say, hey, do you remember that Word document you were supposed to send me? I don't think I ever received it. Could you right-click, share, and do that? Because when you right-click and share a file, it creates an invisible guest user. And that attacker is now able to enumerate your tenant. Amazing. Brilliant thing for an attacker, of course. As a defender, you have to make sure that setting is set to, hey, don't allow any guest users to enumerate anything. That is one of the settings that SIP always recommends to change. But if you have something like Work IQ or Agent 365 or all of the other options that Microsoft has made available now, it becomes much easier to change that setting for everyone and to prevent this kind of access. If you do that in an automated way, it also helps in making up, freeing up more time for other things. My MSP always says, hey, we check your log files and these kind of things. And we do use a SIM and SOAR for that, of course. We make sure that we check all the log files and we respond on things that we have to respond to. But one of my security engineers once said, like, hey, you know what would be really awesome? If we wouldn't work on all of these small tasks all the time, we could actually dive into just a couple of logs ourselves instead of relying on just the alerting and see what's going on, just to have a bit more visibility, to have more comfort with the tenant, to have more comfort with the data. And I spoke to my engineers about this, and they were like, yeah, this is going to be awesome because those tasks that we never get to do, there's finally time for that because we don't have to focus on it anymore.
Okay. Matt?
Well, we've been talking about everything being scalable, more intelligence, and the power of AI. But when it comes to M360 management, I guess I'll do the paradox of Wes's question. What can AI not solve that comes to your mind?
Stupidity. MSPs... I am saying this as an MSP, so I don't want anyone in the audience to be offended by this. MSPs are idiots. I've said this at so many events. I think I say it at pretty much every event that I speak at. We make so many dumb mistakes that we really shouldn't be making. We make these tiny little things, like our client is asking, hey, the CEO doesn't want MFA because he finds it annoying. And we go like, okay, let's turn it off because this is the guy paying the bills. AI will never fix stability. And there will be mistakes like that, mistakes made out of convenience or because there was a financial incentive. And alerting, SIP type of alerting or whatever you use. I never want to focus on a specific product. M365 Sentinel or Azure Sentinel, if you utilize it, you can set up alerting for when someone disables MFA or when someone does a stupid. Those are fixes for that, but never a complete prevention.
Fair enough. And then even on those types of not by default or changes for CEOs that don't want to use MFA, though, AI can at least solve some of the drift, hopefully. that can occur.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so the other thing here too is that was announced as Security Copilot is now bundled with E5. So, and I know you even wrote this automation gone wild tickets and the wave of it. What is your position right now for this and how it grows to the concept of an AI augmented SOC?
So like I said, I'm super bullish on AI, but everything I've been saying so far is fairly negative about AI. This is actually the one spot I believe that AI can help so much. It's the triage of ticketing. It's the triage of SOC alerts. It's the making sure that an alert is actually actionable. So many of the alerts that we get right now as an MSP, before we even introduce AI, are not actionable. There's so many systems that just swamp our entire ticketing system and say like, oh, you should check this out. Oh, you should do something with this. This is a very high priority. Something that happens on one computer once every blue moon is a critical priority. There's so much stuff going on for us as MSPs inside of our ticketing system that AI is actually, I think, going to be one of the best solutions to having a much better triage process than we've ever had before. Security Copilot is a really good example of that. I've used it at my MSP, and we've had amazing recommendations where Defender normally just throws out, like, these are all critical alerts, and you actually let Security Copilot sort out what's actually critical. We went from 412 critical tickets to 6. Like, just
Wow.
because it analyzed like, oh, this is important to your environment, this completely doesn't matter in your environment.
So it takes out a lot of the low hanging fruit or the noise that's typically sitting at like a tier 1.
Exactly.
Well, what about the higher tiered AI needs as far as the more critical alerts that come in? Can AI help that? And what's your position actually on like self-remediation for the low hanging fruit?
Ooh, that one, the latter one is
AI to do some of
because
these.
I would love self-remediation, but I don't believe in self-remediation for security alerts because of the risk involved. Alerting and having the fix performed by AI, yes, and then having a human still in the loop to close the ticket or something like that, I'm 100% for. But having it completely do things autonomously is a worry for me because MSPs also assume things. I am a guy that assumes a lot of things, and if I make it handle alerts completely autonomously, I will start believing, oh, the AI is handling this, and ignore some of the low-hanging fruit, which is a danger because that's often, in most cases, the point of entry for a bad actor.
Kelvin, can I get your take real quick on Security Copilot at the E5 level?
Absolutely.
Two kind of questions. Is it, because it's E5, is this a Microsoft maybe looking at the broader competitive landscape and saying, hey, let's attack Cisco, aka Splunk, knowing how many people use E5 licensing? Like, this is a way to maybe, hey, let's go right at the heart of the enterprise. And then second part, could you see this potentially making its way down to premium and others the way that some of these other feature sets have?
So your first one, yeah, absolutely. And your second one, yes, too. Microsoft already has a new SKU available, which brings most of the E5 features to Business Premium. It's a $15 enhancement.
The one announced Nation there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This doesn't include Security Copilot yet. Yeah. And I'm saying yet because very long ago we said, Microsoft will never include Defender in any of their cheap SKUs. But I think we were on the Cybercall saying this, and then 6 months later, Microsoft goes like, you know what? Screw you guys. Here you go. Here's Defender in Business Premium. So I want to be careful with those forward-looking statements. I do believe that down market, Security Copilot can have a lot more effect than in the enterprise. Sure, in the enterprise, it's going to be important, but there are large security teams at play there. There's CrowdStrike. Like an example, or Mandiant, well, Google now, whatever. Those are the companies that are active in that area for enterprises.
Yeah.
They have super experienced employees. MSPs don't. So I think the effect will be much higher.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, we argue, E5 in the enterprise is pervasive. I'm not saying there aren't Google shops, but very pervasive. And you think about, if that is pretty damn enticing now for those SOC teams, right? To start to look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So sorry, over to you, Mac.
Oh, all good. All right, Kelvin. So your SIP certification, the first one for Right of Boom, has sold out, which is a good indicator when it comes to MSPs and how hangry they are for M365 knowledge. What does that tell you a little bit where MSPs are moving?
I love that. Hangry for knowledge. That's exactly how I describe it. Because I think this is, and I'm just checking with Andrew. We're the first pre-day that got completely sold out and that fast, right? And I think this really speaks to how we approach education as Cyberdrain. We've had a session at IT Nation Secure last year, which was one of the best received sessions ever at IT Nation Secure about M365 security. It's sort of the precursor of what we're doing at Right of Boom. And what I've noticed during that session is that there is a thing where a lot of vendors in our space have been spoon feeding baby food to MSPs while they were hungering for steak. That they were, please give me the practical on-hand knowledge about exactly what I need to do here. And I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but I really love that this got sold out so fast, because it means that our community has seen the value that we deliver and that we are delivering that steak to them. So I'm super excited about the entire thing, about everything around Right of Boom, but especially about being able to educate 120 MSPs that are going to level up in ways of M365 management, because we're not just saying like, oh, we're training you on SIP. We're saying we're training you on M365 with practical MSP knowledge. And this is why SIP makes it a little bit easier. And so people are walking away with this actual sense of, oh, hey, we are completely in control now. So I'm sorry, I got a little excited. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. No, and I think that's a big thing too, because it's a little bit of what you were saying earlier, where the spoon feeding, when you want everyone to go to the Golden Corral, is really what they want. But I think people are so focused on what's their Microsoft story and what do they tell when it comes to their partnership with Microsoft at a vendor level, when it's really like, no, tell us how to do the shit. This is actually what we want to know about.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great analogy. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the new version, 8.7. Is it O or 1? I feel like it's shifted a bit.
8.7.0. I think we did a hot fix. That might be 1.
Can you tell me?
Hey, Mac, it's like Van Halen's OU812. Remember that album?
Yeah, I definitely remember that album, Andrew. I'm not gonna. How dare you age me on camera? Okay, so the new version's coming out. Can you tell us a little bit what the speed feature is, or scalability feature is, that you're most proud of?
There's a lot of these really small community contributions that always the ones that I like best, because we have a strong team working on developing the product, and then our community comes in and goes like, hey, this is an open source product, I like this, let me build something. And they build something that is completely out of scope of what we were thinking about, but it's exactly what MSPs need. So I always want to give a shout out to all the community contributors, but in this case, I think one of the coolest thing is actually something we made internally, which is conditional access vacation mode. It's always really complex to manage conditional access and people going on holidays and going like, oh, I forgot to tell you that I am, and I'll be in Africa for 2 weeks. How am I supposed to log in now? And we created this entire structure that automatically creates an exclusion group that puts the user in that exclusion group, that monitors if users are not in the group too long, and that removes it from the group after their holiday, and all updates this entire flow inside of your ticketing system to let you know that this has happened. So that's one of those features that is at my MSP, it happens nearly every week. Someone goes on vacation without telling us, and the help desk needs to scramble, and that makes it scrambling a lot less, and it gives it more. There's less manual clicks involved in solving the issue, so it gives you that feeling of, okay, now I know that I can trust on the automation. So this is that's I think the best scalability feature we've built into this version.
Now you just need a little bit of the UBA integration coming in with HR systems and their time off systems.
Exactly. When the time off request comes in, launch vacation mode. Exactly.
Just turn it off entirely. All right. So we see a lot of, on the topic of AI, and kind of close this up. A lot of these AI models are starting to multiply in Azure specifically. We have Anthropic, OpenAI. Do MSPs really need to understand this layer to be competitive, or do they have a little bit more time in the waiting room before they need to jump on to the
MSPs
AI
need to
train?
understand that they really need to understand the basis of AI. They need to be, and this goes back to the MSP in 5 years will be a lot more consulting and business process focused. They need to understand how AI can assist in specific business processes, not just in their own, which is something that in our industry, we have this thing where we look exactly at, oh, is this for MSPs? No, it's not. So I'm going to ignore it. Companies are going to need to understand AI. And I keep saying, like I'm just copying Ashley Cooper here because she is like, she knows everything about AI. And I keep saying, like, all we have to do is focus on education. And she says it goes a step further. We need to have a more base level of understanding. Where did AI come from? It started with transformers. It then became large language models. And there's specific paths that a large language model can take. It can be it can be a GPT, but it can also be just a generation thing. Or that there's so many options in AI that MSPs need to understand a little bit of the backstory, and then focus on helping themselves productize what they believe they need, instead of just focusing on, oh, hey, this is ChatGPT and you can start using it. This is Copilot and you can start using it. It doesn't work that way anymore. You need to have a base level of understanding of what it all actually does. On the MSP KB, we're actually making a little introduction to the MSP KB is an open source website that you can find on docs.themspkb.com, where there's a little introduction course to AI for MSPs. We're building that right now, and we're going to explain to people, like, this is what you need to know about AI to at least sound a bit sensible to your clients, because they also have no clue. Yeah.
Are you calling it the baby food module then? That's going to be
yes. Yeah.
maturity goes up to steak.
Hey, Kelvin, I'm just going to put in one URL. Kelvin, I'm putting in one URL because you mentioned like the history of AI and LLMs. Joff Tyre, who goes Wednesday morning, he's Strand's head of AI, and these guys are all either former SANS or EINS instructors. And if you guys have ever heard Joff, he's unbelievable. In fact, if you were at Flow, he did a session at Roos event. So this doesn't conflict with yours, Kevin, because you're the evening before. But I can't stress enough, if you truly want to get into the heart and soul, of AI, LLMs, and then how he brings it into modern day and using it in cybersecurity, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did have one last thing that you have to touch on, Kelvin. Is that okay? Okay, cool. My last thing is, when we're talking about M365 management, what's the warning you're giving MSPs? If you could leave one warning with them.
It's not so much a warning, it's a heed my mistakes. Stop trying to be everything. My MSP has grown a lot, and we've always tried to be everything. We've tried to be the security guys. We've tried to be the team that does consulting. We've tried to be the business process automators, and we've tried to be the MSP at the same time. IT is slowly turning into a commodity, and you can make sure that you are an expert at that commodity and something else. But you can't be an expert at every single thing. You can be an expert at AI and security and automation and it just doesn't work that way. Partner with people that are experts in that. Make sure that you don't attack these things alone anymore. It used to be, because our industry was much simpler, that you could say, you know what, I'm going to do all of this because I have a lot of technical knowledge. But that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. So I guess my warning isn't a warning. It's more a statement like, hey, be careful and don't overload yourself, because that'll lead to either burnout or to just not giving your clients the service that they deserve.
Solid answer. Yeah.
Great stuff, Calvin. As always, thank you for coming on. Anything that are on your mind, just
I'm just so excited for Ride of Boom. Like, it is the one event I'm looking forward to so much that like we're preparing with the company, because we're tiny. We have 6 people working for us, and there's even some people externally from our community coming to man our booth because we have a community booth. I'm really excited for that, so I can't wait to see all of you there.
Is there going to be lounges like Ashley had told me she invited?
I believe so. I believe, like, I'm not in charge of logistics in that sense. So I believe there's going to be like a lounge chair area, and we'll have some candy or something to give out. But we'll see.
All right. Well, Wes, any closing thoughts for you, bud? We got, just a few minutes here. We can certainly wrap up early, give people a few minutes back on their holiday week. And by the way, we will, like, as always, turn this into a podcast. We'll have it out there first thing tomorrow morning, if not tonight. So if you want to share, which I think is Kelvin was brilliant today, you can share it out with friends, family, neighbors. And I recommend playing this at Thanksgiving dinner, personally.
That's what I usually do.
I'm not sure people will appreciate that. Listening to a weird Dutch guy while being thankful.
That's usually what I do too, Andrew, and everyone just loves me for it. It's perfect, like, get you to sleep after your turkey nap or whatever it is. But no, seriously, I love this conversation. It just continues to highlight, I think, Andrew, the future of where we're going as MSPs, and I could not be more excited about it. I don't see any of this as a threat. I see all of this as an increase in capability. I see it as an increase in who and what an MSP is going to become. We've been screaming forever of, like, we want specialization. We want to be unique. We want an MSP to mean something when we say we're an MSP. I think this is all part and parcel of where we're going, and successful MSPs are coming to grips with, like, all of this is a huge net positive for us. But I just want to circle back on one thing Kelvin said, is the stupidity thing, right? If we don't fix, all we're going to do is multiply stupidity if we're not careful. So having good knowledge and strategy in our process and the outcomes that we expect, and making sure that there's maturity and governance there is what's going to make us successful, and we can finally do more with less. And that's what I'm excited about, Andrew. I think the future is bright. And Kelvin, thanks for joining, and great to see you again. And Mac, you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Way to sum it up, Mac. Thanks for joining. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. Any closing comments, Mac, for you? Are we going to see a white Christmas out in Idaho?
Idaho, no, it's dry AF here. It's very dry everywhere, though. Utah, Colorado, apparently, no. Hopefully snow is coming, and I'm looking forward to at least hibernating, not eating a steak dinner, but it'll be fine. Closing thoughts. Thank you so much, Kelvin, too. You left us with a lot of good knowledge and insights, and yeah, thanks for spoon feeding us a little bit. I'm looking forward to Ride a Boom with you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all.
And to all you out there, happy Thanksgiving. Kelvin, I know you guys don't celebrate it. I don't believe in the Netherlands, but happy Thanksgiving to you.
You too, Andrew. You too.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Everyone. Bye.
Bye. All voices, one place. There's a session for everyone on your team at Ride a Boom 2026, MGM Las Vegas, February 3rd to 6th. Join us to connect, learn, and bring back insights that matter. Use code CyberCallPod to save $100.